lot of trust in you as they move into the future, and they point to the fact that you're so individualized with your coaching. Just where does that come from for you, and how does that instill confidence in some of these guys?
I think there's kind of a base logic to it that we're all different, unique people, and I think recognizing that just philosophically, I feel like that's the beauty of a team, that everyone can in a very fundamental sense be who they are, and also contribute in unique ways to the group. I think all of us, beginning to not just understand but value what it's, the satisfaction in being part of something that's bigger than you. To the extent, as a coach and leader, that you want to try to help people understand that. And we've got a lot of guys, I think, that intuitively know that that's a good place to be. And you want the way you play, your approach to to give you opportunities to do that. And that's I think who we want to be. I think that manifests itself in success, and I think in the short time that I've been here, that's been something that that's been a goal. When I've said be the best version of ourselves at the end of the year, I think that's a fundamental part of that. And I'm grateful that guys have embraced that, and we'll continue to learn both what that looks like and also what we can all do to to contribute to that. So I think those things are consistent in many ways, because guys have different things to offer, and we all want to be able to give what we have to give to the group.
And just looking at how motivated a lot of them are to come back and continue working with the staff, that
Yeah.
whether they're still here, the ones that you guys are bringing in, just what does that say about them taking that step to the next level, especially maturity wise?
Yeah, I think when as a player or coach, when you can envision a path forward that's one that you want to walk, that can be exciting. To have that. There's an opportunity there. There's a freshness there, and that's what the summer's all about. And having, I think, the last weeks, maybe as much as anything, that beginning to crystallize a little bit, where there can be some enthusiasm about that process itself, because that's what the summer is. It's a time to to invest in yourselves and to invest in the team. You can do it a lot of different ways. We're just not all here together day to day. So.
We talked to Sadiq about just the whirlwind from he was traded here in February and having to go from hotel to hotel. How has that been for you, and how excited are you to kind of just be able to settle now and really kind of get some roots going as you get into the offseason?
Yeah, that's something I'm not quite. Sadiq's out of the hotel. I'm out of the hotel. I'm going to follow his lead as far as how that happens. To be honest with you, that hasn't been in the forefront of my mind until I woke up this morning, and I felt a little lost. What do I do today? Part of it for me is just going to be reconnecting with my family. I'm looking forward to that, and continuing to to build the relationships and have the experiences we've had with our players, and a different time in a different way with the off season. So it's good. I woke up and I was glad I was in Atlanta. So that part's exciting in many ways too.
Looking at the success you've had in just the limited time you've been in Atlanta, how just do you look forward to next season, your team starting from the very beginning?
Yeah, I think this time has been invaluable in that respect, on not just in the present, but as you begin to see the ways that I think for the players and for myself and for Landry and all the different ways that we can begin to grow and get better, and to feel that and to see it in a tangible way is really beneficial for all of us as we kind of embark on this next phase.
Is there, just tagging on to Andy's question, like maybe not with a number, but is there a way to quantify like how much you felt you were able to do with this team versus how much you might be able to do in a full season?
It's hard to know, as you said. Definitely difficult to attach anything to it. I think the thing that was unique about this year, and I think it was, there was so much to learn. There was so much to learn in order to get to a point where you could learn, and if that makes any sense. So, I think, you get an idea of there's a lot for me to process and to kind of have a chance to reflect on, even though it was a short amount of time, in a finite way in terms of days and hours and weeks and months. There's a lot packed in, and to unpack it and really process it and see some of the areas and the things. I mean, some of them you kind of know immediately, whatever we want to do that we can visibly and tangibly improve on. Then there's the how do you go about that? What is it that you can do to see that that growth within a team? And so identifying it, and you might be able to identify it, but you don't know exactly what it looks like, and that'll give you a better idea, how to achieve it. And those things take time. When people talk about implementing your system, I don't know what that is, because we were just trying to get better. And so you have a chance to kind of, I don't have some system that's lurking out there that you get and then just apply. I think a system is something that you create, and you create it with the players, and it's a series of adjustments and experience and failure and success, and we've had enough of that right now substantively that really helps. But as we head into next year, I think that process begins anew. I know for me, every year's been different. Every team's been different. Your style of play changes. How you can defend changes. And so, but to have some tangible experience with that, I think really helps me as far as crafting some of those things. A number of years ago, the pace and space was all the rage, and I found out that, we played, after a month of the season, we were the slowest team in the NBA, and I felt like I was failing. And then I realized that doesn't quite work with this group, and I don't know that I came into this year with a plan as much as what are we good at? What are we not as good at that we need to improve on? Or what are we not as good at that we don't need to do? And that we need to do more of this. And I'm speaking kind of broad strokes, but I think you get the idea of, trying to figure out who you are, and how can you improve the things you're good at, and work on the things you're not as good at, and just evolve, but with a plan that really fits, this team. And, I think that's the key to, a team getting better, is getting better, doubling down on things that you have a chance to get better at, and that's part of the learning process that I think lends itself to the growth process.
Coach, you talked about, culture and chemistry. The first time we had to sit down with you, you had mentioned it felt like it wasn't the first time you were speaking to the guys. Mm-hmm. The guys, multiple guys have come in and said that they would run through a brick. You're the type of coach they'd run through a brick.
That's nice to hear.
What does that mean, just, only being here for 20 years?
Oh, it means, I'm just really grateful for that because, I think the thing that we talked about was trust, and that we're all just going to decide to trust each other until things happened, hopefully not too many that somehow, call that into question, and then to just transparently recognize them, deal with them, confront them, change them. You use the word culture, and in my mind, a culture is created over time by all the decisions that you make, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of them. They occur day to day. They occur in the summer. They occur during the year. Some of them are more like we all see them. But oftentimes, it's not something you put on the wall. There's things that we aspire to. There's values. But your culture is really how consistently those decisions reflect your values. And that to me that's the process. That's the building process. And it just doesn't, you can't say that's who you are. You have to live it. And then it really, we know who we are by what we choose and what we do. And we have to know what we want to be before we can make those decisions. And that's, in a lot of ways, for me, what these last couple months have been about is us, having some sort of vision of what we want to be, and then working backwards with the decisions that we make to get to that point.
How do you see Trey and DJ kind of continue to learn each other and
Yeah.
each other's games over the course of your tenure? DJ spoke about how, and Trey too, perfect chemistry doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But DJ talked about how there's been examples this season where that pairing really can work.
Yeah, I think we can all just quickly think of a relationship that we've had in our lives and to understand the growth that it takes, over, years sometimes, so that process has begun and it will continue to evolve. There's lots of ways to evaluate that connectivity. Sometimes we look at it on the court. Sometimes you look at it off the court. Sometimes you look at it personally, socially. There's so many different things that we point to and say, and try to evaluate something. I think the biggest thing is just you let that stuff breathe, and you learn. And I think there's a willingness, that's present that is, fertile soil. And gets back to some of the stuff we talked about before. And I think you probably heard from both of them some excitement about what that can be. And, even how we play. Guys getting used to playing together, what that looks like, especially as they're both growing. You have two players in my mind that can get better, and how do they get better individually? How do they get better, in tandem? And how does our team get better? I think that's the thing that, we can identify those two guys, but it's really about the group, and how does Trey make our team better? How does DJ make our team better? How does DJ make Trey better? How does Trey make DeAndre better? You go down the list, that's the crucial part. And obviously those two guys, in part because they have the ball, they're easy to identify, and, their partnership, so to speak. And that's different every game too. It's hard to take a singular moment or game or even series and evaluate that, where that is. I think the important thing is a vision for how it works. And that'll continue to evolve too. So.
Both of you mentioned how valuable it was for your young team to see the Celtics fully formed title contender and play against them, and how proud he was that went toe-to-toe with them. How proud of you, or how proud of the team were you with how the series played out, and what was the message to the team?
I think it's interesting that he drew that comparison because I think, I want to say 2018, 19, when that group first kind of came together. And, there isn't instant gratification. It just doesn't happen. You go through a lot together. You go through, you lose together. And you learn how to win together. And so to that extent, there's, it's good to know that you competed but it's like your golf game, not mine, but yours. We all know what it's like to be, a 3 handicap, but getting to be scratch is a whole lot more work than it is to go from 13 to 3. And then to be at the highest level, is a whole nother process. So I think there's a realism involved in that. No one wants to sit here and say 7 years from now or 6 years from now, maybe we'll be here. I don't think you want to give yourself a timeline one way or the other, but you can't skip steps. You just can't. And you may have success in a certain context at a certain time, but that may not always reflect where you are. So I would say it's great that we competed. That's a good step, feeling like you belong, but we've got a lot of work to do, and there's no question about that.
I know you're still processing the, end of the season and everything like that, and you just mentioned having a lot of work to do. How much of that involves looking at what you've gotten out of your coaching staff, in these 21, 28 games, and looking to the future of maybe adding, taking away, things like that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a 2-part question. I think, I've said, multiple times, because I feel it, and I've felt it continuously, the support that I've personally received from, the guys on the current staff, and, that, like everything, that evolves, and I haven't gotten to a point where you piece all that together. It's like creating a team. So I just, am and remain and will always be grateful for, the input, support, expertise that this group has had. It's been instrumental in, what we've tried to do with the team.
Quinn, what has your message been to AJ, especially today, and with him dealing with the minutes change, and then also do you see him playing some of it?
We haven't even, anything, summer league and those things. We'll sit down and talk and figure out what's best for, each player individually. Sometimes they play a couple games, sometimes they don't play. There's so many things that go into it. For young players, your path, your growth, it's not linear, and I don't think, in AJ's case, sometimes you can evaluate guys at different points. They're playing, they're not playing. Like I said, that's a process, and he's a guy that I'm excited about, and the things that he can do already, the areas that he's excited to embrace, and that's how you improve, and that's what I see in him. I think that's the opportunity he sees.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.